Welcome to the Cocktail Spirit from the Small Screen Network. I'm your host, Robert Hess. Now in this episode, I want to take and cover another rum cocktail that I really like, and I find that I can introduce people to it and they really like it as well. Especially if people are really getting too hung up on the cosmopolitan, this is the drink I can use to say, hey, let's try something different. It has the same color and some of the same flavor appeal that cosmopolitan does. We're again going to use Bacardi cocktail, or Bacardi rum. Bacardi cocktail is something else, which we'll cover later. We're going to do 1.5 ounces of Bacardi rum. And now we're going to do 1/2 ounce of lime juice. Now, if you saw the previous episode on the daiquiri, you might remember that I also used 1/2 ounce of lime juice, and I used one of the smaller limes, and it used practically all the lime out of that half lime juice. I've still got a bunch of lime sitting here, and this is one of the larger limes. Again, case in point, make sure you measure your juices, not just simply using the juice of a fruit. We're also going to use 1/2 ounce of sweet vermouth. And to that, we're going to add about 1/8 ounce of Grenadine. It's just a small amount. This is going to add a little bit of color and a little bit of sweetness. Now for my Grenadine, I actually use homemade Grenadine. It's not going to be quite as bright ruby red as the store-bought stuff is, because most of the store-bought is actually artificially colored. And it's artificially flavored as well. True Grenadine is supposed to be made with pomegranate juice. And a lot of the Grenadine we have nowadays is not made from pomegranate juice. Instead, they use a little bit of citric acid to add the tartness that pomegranates are going to have to it. And they add red food coloring and maybe some other fruit juices of some sort to try to give that Grenadine, that pomegranate type flavor to it. There are a couple of brands out there that are using real pomegranate juice in them. So I'd take a look for those first if you want to make it yourself. But if you want to make it yourself, it's extremely easy and I think tastes an awful lot better. What I do is I take a pomegranate and I seed the pomegranate. A lot of people might take and really, roll their eyes at trying to seed a pomegranate because knowing how hard it is, it's actually quite easy. All you do is start pulling the skin off and some of the pomegranate, then you take and fill a sink or a tub full of water, hold the pomegranate underneath it, and then just start working it out with your fingers. The water will take and prevent your fingers from getting stained from the pomegranate juice, plus the pomegranate seeds will float away from the pomegranate bulk itself, and you can easily take and separate them out and get the pomegranate seeds by themselves very whole. What I then do is make some simple syrup. We saw earlier in the daiquiri episode where I use simple syrup. Just take some simple syrup, make it like normal, but keep it simmering on the stove. And then add in the pomegranate seeds and let them simmer in that simple syrup for about 1/2 hour, 45 minutes on a very low temperature. So the heat is going to take and actually extract the flavor and the color out of the pomegranate seeds themselves. Another interesting thing that you're going to get in that fashion that you wouldn't get if you just took and bought pomegranate juice and added to simple syrup is that the seeds, the seed part, not the red pulp around the seeds, but the seeds actually are going to impart some flavor as well. It's going to be more of a character, slightly maybe on the musky side, from a wine standpoint, but I think it adds an interesting character to the Grenadine. Whether or not that's the way Grenadine was originally made or not, I don't know, but I think it really takes and embodies what I like to have in a Grenadine. Now to this, we're going to take and add the secret ingredient, and that is creme de cacao. While you can use the brown creme de cacao, which is basically just chocolate flavored liqueur to a certain extent, it's made with cacao beans, and both the clear and the brown have basically the exact same flavor. I prefer using the clear in almost all cocktails simply because it's not going to take and add that muddy color to the drink as well. We're going to add a little bit less of this than we did the Grenadine. And this is, like I said, really a secret ingredient. You want to be really careful with this because you put a little bit too much and you go overboard. Properly made, This drink should have a flavor that people can't quite pick out. They say, "What? There's some flavor there. I'm not sure what it is." And then you say, "Well, that's chocolate." And they go, "You're right. It is chocolate." So it shouldn't stand out enough so you notice it, but it should stand out enough so you can detect it in the background. So you saw that was a very little amount. Now we're going to take and add the ice. Now the color in this drink is a little on the browner side from the sweet vermouth, and since my grenadine was homemade, it didn't quite add that bright red color. If you used a store-bought grenadine with artificial colors in it, this would almost look exactly like a Cosmopolitan. Now let's take and add our garnish. I'm just cutting a half wheel of lime, and then I'm going to take and slice right along one of the fruit sections, just to the skin, and hang that over the edge. And there we have the Floridita cocktail.